daring highway takedowns to intense chases in the busy city streets, these police officers have given the words fast and furious a whole new meaning. The incredible skill and determination of officers in the heat of the pursuit is just extraordinary, and that's exactly what this video is all about.
Hold the traffic back.
So stay tuned as I'm about to reveal 20 of the craziest police pit maneuvers that'll leave you on the edge of your seat. Number 1. Police car narrowly misses truck. This footage is intense. It shows an Arkansas State police car chasing a white vehicle, and if I had to guess, it seems like both of these cars easily went over 100 miles per hour. Just as the fleeing white car is about to cross the semi, the officer executes a dangerous pit maneuver, narrowly avoiding a collision with the truck. The suspect slams hard into the steel rail, and from the looks of it, the vehicle is clearly totaled, and there's no escaping it. As for the cop, he does swerve a little and slams the side of the semi, but it's nothing too serious. But the fact that this officer was able to execute this pity maneuver at such high speeds on a busy highway is just mind-blowing. Number 2. Get off your phone. The driver in the white Cadillac is stopped for going around 20 miles over the speed limit, and when this officer asks the suspect to step out, he thinks it's a good idea to speed away. Firstly, you're not exactly in a performance vehicle, so there's no way you're gapping the cops. Secondly, why did he switch off his lights, like he was in a Beamer or something? Anyway, the officer first attempts a pit maneuver on the right side of this guy's vehicle, and even though he lost control, he fortunately managed to straighten out again, continuing the chase. The second attempt at a tactical intervention also fails, but this officer is smart, and after spotting a ditch, he literally rams the Cadillac right into it. Here's where things get strange, though. Even though this suspect is being held at gunpoint, he's not getting off his phone. It seems like he's texting someone, but it makes zero sense. Like, just give up already, dude. Anyway, the officer later discovers some drugs, as well as 2 tablets of Xanax in the vehicle. And while I'm no expert, this guy is going to be in jail for quite some time. Number 3. As clean as it gets. The driver behind the wheel of this red pickup is wanted for theft, and as he dangerously zooms through traffic on a busy highway, the police aren't about to let him off the hook so easily. Now, normally, if it's a high-stakes situation with a lot of public on the road, the police usually give up the chase to prevent serious damage. But this guy has messed with the wrong officers, and as the driver attempts to get away, a police officer on his tail pulls off, perhaps the cleanest pit maneuver I've ever seen. It's not enough to stop the truck, but boy, was it executed perfectly. Anyway, the chase continues with the suspect becoming even bolder, zigzagging through traffic at dangerous speeds. The driver eventually has to slow down, though, since both of the lanes are blocked by vehicles, and in a desperate attempt to somehow get past them, he slams the brakes a bit too late and hits one of the cars. But this pause is enough for the police to set him again for a beautiful takedown and around nearly 70 miles per hour. Cop pulls off an absolutely brilliant maneuver, with the truck slamming hard on the concrete barrier, nearly flipping over in the opposite lane. He's unable to gain control of the vehicle and slams the barrier hard before being boxed in and arrested by the officers. Number 4. The worst driver ever. This suspect also attempts to fool the cops as he speeds away from them during a stop in the middle of a parking lot. Now, straight away, noticing that he's on a Mustang, you can tell this is going to be a hard chase for the officers. But that's clearly not the case, since the person behind the wheel is probably the worst driver ever. The cops are tailing the Mustang as it zooms through busy streets, signals, and intersections, and for a moment, it almost seems as if the suspect is going to get away. But I'm not sure what happens after the Mustang makes a right, because it just slows down, with the cops performing a clean pit from the back. The driver once again tries to drive away, but the officer has them bad, and just rams the Mustang to prevent it from straightening out. But yeah, from the cop's perspective, that is about as perfect as it gets. An example of exceptional training and skill right there, folks. Number 5. Destructive chase. Who would have known that this tiny white car could end up causing so much destruction? Just to clear things out, the vehicle is stolen, and the person behind the wheel isn't afraid to get rough with it either. The intense chase appears to be going down in a busy county, and as the suspect zooms through the busy streets, an officer manages to approach from the side, getting ready for a tactical intervention. But like I just said, the driver isn't afraid to get rough and goes off-road, driving in circles to evade the cops in a small park. Just as the driver is about to get back on the road, a police SUV rams it from the side, nearly taking off its bumper. Oh, and as the white car gets back on the road, it goes straight through a pole that can be seen resting on the top of the vehicle. It's not long before an SUV finally pits this vehicle, causing it to lose control and once again go through another pole. Also, what's funny is, as the cops are trying to arrest this person, they suddenly remember that their kids are also in the vehicle. I mean, you were literally jumping over curbs and driving into poles. What about the kids then? Number 6. Perfect timing. This is another pickup truck dangerously going through traffic as the police attempt to stop it. You can see how 2 police SUVs attempt to box it in because slowing this guy down is much safer than hitting a pity maneuver in the middle of a busy highway. But the driver quickly swerves and escapes the trap and continues to speed away through traffic. The chase is on, and the police continue to follow the suspect without getting too close, because who knows? With the way this person is driving, they wouldn't think twice before doing harm. But once the pursuit is off the highway, one of the SUVs spots the perfect chance to put an end to the chase. He locates a ditch ahead, and as soon as the pickup is beside it, the officer spins his steering wheel and rams the truck, pushing it right into the ditch. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I call perfect timing. The officer knew exactly what he was doing and saved a lot of people from a lot of damage. Number 7. She was running out of gas. If there's one thing we've learned by now, it's that you should never attempt to race a cop when they stop you. But this lady made a classic mistake after speeding away during a regular traffic stop, and her excuse for going nearly 130 miles per hour, well, she was running out of gas. Anyway, it's a troublesome situation for her since she's out of gas, and going at dangerous speeds on the highway seems to be the only solution here. But this cop is all about business, and as soon he lines up his vehicle right next to hers, he pulls off a crazy pit maneuver with the other car going out of the frame and slamming into the cables on the side of the road. It's funny when you think about it, because not only did this lady have an empty tank, but it seems like she had an empty skull as well. Number 8. All that speeding for this? So there are basically 2 shocking facts in this video. Number 1, there's still a Ford Windstar van on the road, and number 2, it can go over 100 miles. What's even funnier is that the driver probably thought he was actually getting away, even though the cops were letting him get ahead. The chase went on for much longer than it should have, because had the cops wanted, they could have probably stopped the van a long time ago. But I'm guessing they were trying not to do a tactical intervention, but when this guy refused to slow down, things could not have gone worse. The Arkansas state officer pieties the van from the right side, and even though it goes out of frame, the next thing you see is the vehicle upside down in the middle of a field. It was said that the vehicle rolled over several times before coming to a stop. And when you think about it, all that speed for this, only to be upside down in the middle of the field? I wish these suspects were a bit smarter. Number 9. Was it really necessary? This DPS trooper was not messing around as it sent this truck spinning after a nasty high-speed pit maneuver. And while watching this video, I couldn't help but wonder whether it was the right thing to do since there were so many cars on the road. It could have ended either way, to be honest, but I'm glad no one got hurt, and the truck was stopped before it did some serious damage. Oh, and if you look closely, the truck was actually getting off the freeway, so not sure why the cop did that. Nevertheless, a crazy pit maneuver. Number 10. The perfect man for the job. Believe it or not, the police driver in this video is actually a legend. His name is Officer Bird, and he's known for pulling off the cleanest and most effective piety maneuvers. He's also an expert when it comes to high-speed chases. Anyway, this footage starts with Officer Bird zooming through traffic to catch up to the suspect, and when he finally does, the fleeing car exits the freeway, going through a busy traffic signal. The fleeing car then takes another turn heading back on the freeway, but that's when the other officers know this is a job for Officer Bird. Both police vehicles move aside, allowing him to take the lead, and what's crazy is that Officer Bird literally pulls off this pit maneuver with an 18-wheeler in close proximity. This could have gotten really ugly had the vehicle crashed into the truck, but thankfully, there's a ditch nearby, and that's where all these fleeing cars go to die. Another day, another victory for Officer Bird, the right man for the job. It only took him 12 seconds to shut down this chase. Number 11, back at it again. Officer Bird strikes again, ladies and gentlemen. The man, the myth, the legend. He's once again behind the wheel as he goes through traffic to catch up to the suspect. And when he starts to catch up, you know he's the boss, when other police cars start moving aside and making way for him. The vehicle we have in this video is an old truck, and while it might not be the fastest on the block, it's definitely super sturdy. Pulling off a pit maneuver on such a heavy vehicle is not everyone's cup of tea, but Officer Bird makes it look like a piece of cake. He gently brushes the truck from the back, which sends it sliding into the concrete barrier, nearly totaling the car. I wish we got to see it though, because the truck looks bad. Must have been a nasty collision, but nevertheless, a crazy pit maneuver by the legend. Number 12, an immediate surrender. In this next footage, we can see Florida troopers chase down a black vehicle on the highway, and while there's not a lot of context, I'm sure the drivers were up to no good. And even though it seems like the police are behind the suspect, they're actually ahead, trying to get him to slow down by boxing him in. But that's clearly not going to work since the driver has other plans, but what he doesn't know is that there's a skilled officer driving the police car. The officer gently nudges the fleeing vehicle, which then skids out of control and slams into the railing. The driver doesn't even waste a second and immediately throws up his arms, accepting defeat. Number 13, a tricky situation. This Jeep pushes it hard as it goes off the road to escape the heavy traffic and evade the cops. But the officer pursuing is about to risk it all as he follows the Jeep, going off-road and cutting through traffic to stay on his tail. After a few minutes of chasing down the perp, the cop finally arrives at an open patch with no traffic around and tries to stop the Jeep. It's a good maneuver, but I'm guessing the Jeep is too heavy, which causes the police vehicle to spin out and lose control as well. The suspect straightens out and is off again, but luckily there's an SUV close behind that pushes the Jeep off-road, getting the driver to do a complete stop. Believe it or not, this guy then abandons the Jeep and goes off on foot, but he's eventually arrested at a Burger King parking lot. Number 14, Arkansas State Police at it again. I think the Arkansas State Police needs to conduct nationwide training on how to stop speeding vehicles. They're professionals, and this next video is a testament to that. We see a state trooper chase a person suspected of carrying illegal substances. And while it doesn't really look too intense from the footage, both cars are going more than 100 miles per hour on a busy highway. Things eventually get serious when the driver shows no signs of giving in and goes off-road to take over some cars. That's when the officers know they have to take this car down, and what better way to do it than some good old teamwork. A bigger state cruiser takes the lead and performs an unorthodox pit move as it rams the car from the side. With nowhere to go, the fleeing car slams against the concrete barrier and eventually slows down. It's enough to scare the driver and get him to stop the vehicle. He's later arrested for fleeing, dangerous driving, and carrying meth. No wonder he wasn't slowing down. Number 15, not the smartest thief. This next footage shows a thief trying to speed off in a stolen vehicle, but with cops hot on his tail. His escape is going to be a bit more difficult than he initially expected. Thankfully, it's night, and the highway isn't as busy because the driver is easily going at speeds of more than 100 miles per hour. Believe it or not, at one point, he even switches off all his lights as if the police will just lose sight of the vehicle. I mean, someone come tell this guy that running blacked out doesn't really work when you're only 20, 30 feet ahead of the cops. Anyway, one police car finally catches up to the thief and slams it from the side, causing it to spin, nearly taking out the cop. It also looks like the car is about to straighten up, but the officer quickly notices and rams the car again, completely trapping the thief. It's simple work after that, as the cops cuff the driver and throw him in the back seat. Number 16. Can't get any crazier. Trust me, you're going to want context for this video. So this action-packed pursuit is going down on a busy highway of Miami as the driver tries to evade the cops on a stolen van. But this isn't your everyday thief or grand theft auto incident. No, sir. The guy behind the vehicle literally escaped a mental health facility and then stole this van from the dealership. And honestly speaking, he's driving pretty good for someone who just broke out of a mental health facility. Anyway, the cops side-slam the van twice, but it's not enough to stop this crazy driver who then takes the pursuit to a next level by speeding even more. The footage then switches to a bird's eye view as a helicopter tracks the entire chase. Believe it or not, the officer tries a pity maneuver 3 times, and while the 3rd time is effective enough to spin the van, the driver regains control and speeds off again. Surprisingly, the chase only comes to an end when the driver himself stops the van and steps out. He runs with his hands up in the air before eventually getting down on the pavement and surrendering. I'm not gonna lie, this is perhaps the craziest chase I've ever seen. Number 17, Joyride comes to an end. This is another intense chase in the busy streets of Miami as we see cops chase down a white vehicle. The driver is running through red lights and busy intersections without a care in the world, and in these sorts of situations, you have to give credits to the officers. They want to catch the suspect, but they also have to keep a safe distance to make sure things don't escalate and turn ugly. Anyway, the chase ends up making it to the highway, but the driver eventually gets off and drives back into heavy traffic. He takes a sharp right and goes over a curb that completely throws him off, and thinking he can still get away, he attempts to make a slick U-turn that's quickly shut down by the officer. The cop slams his vehicle from the side and rams it into a fence. At the end of the day, it was great driving and a much greater takedown since the cops managed to get the job done without any damage to public property. Number 18. FBI teams up with cops. This footage starts off exactly how it should. All you can see is a cop car trying to catch up with a vehicle. Any guesses what vehicle it is? It's a Dodge Challenger, and that's why I said it starts how it should, because catching up to a beast like that is super difficult. But when you have the cops and FBI working side by side, taking down a crook inside a Challenger shouldn't be too difficult, right? From the way he's driving, I can tell it's a new car, and he doesn't want any scratches, but the cops couldn't care less. And as this guy is cautiously trying to overtake these 2 vehicles in the middle of a sharp turn, a cop rams the car from the side, causing the driver to lose control and nearly fall into a ditch. The driver is still thinking of speeding off, but that's when the FBI pulls up in an SUV and blocks his path. I mean, imagine getting chased down by the feds for having expired tags. Now that sounds pretty serious. Number 19. Mustang GT leads the chase. I'm not gonna lie, this Mustang really gave the cops a run for their money. The driver apparently has some altered tags, and the police want to investigate it, but for some odd reason, the driver just takes off. Since he's driving a Mustang, he kind of smokes the cops early on in the chase, gapping them by a lot. But it's clear this guy is not a good driver because he spins out on a sharp turn and instead of just pulling up beside him. The police officer comes in hot and rams the car into his back wheel. You'd think this is the end of the chase, but nope. The driver gets away again, and I'm not sure, but it looks like there's a pole or something stuck in the Mustang's back wheel. Anyway, the pursuit continues, and both drivers eventually find themselves in a small neighborhood as they narrowly avoid traffic and parked cars. But I guess that thing stuck in the Mustang's wheel causes the car to lose grip during a turn, allowing the cop to slam it from the side and trap it. The driver quickly gets out and attempts to make a run for it, but he eventually gets caught later in the evening. Number 20. Another Mustang, same fate. This guy was pushing his Mustang to speeds of nearly 100 miles per hour in a 70 zone, and when the driver zoomed past a cop, the officer knew he'd have to put an end to the pursuit. Now the Mustang does seem like it's about to pull over, but it's clear that's just a tactic to put some distance between her and the police. But when she realizes the police aren't about to fall for it, she speeds up again. But what she doesn't know is that Georgia State Patrol has some pretty nice whips. The cop car catches up to the fleeing Mustang and performs a nasty pit maneuver, sending the car flying into the wall. The airbag goes off, and the car is nearly finished from the front, but that's what you get for trying to race the cops. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. So, what do you think? Which was the most impressive PT maneuver in this video? And have you ever seen a high-stakes pursuit in real life? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more interesting content in the future.